Welcome to San Diego Integral, April 23rd, 2022. Today's topic, Collective Presencing WeSpace Practice, presented by Ria Baeck. And now today's host, Tom Habib.
So welcome to San Diego Integral. I'm Tom Habib, and I'm a member of the San Diego Integral's leadership team. We have an exciting presentation today. Eloy is going to introduce our guest speaker very shortly. But I wanted to mention that this session is being recorded, and the link will be posted in the meetup in the next few days. Inevitably, somebody asks, where can I listen to this? So it will be on the meetup page. If you prefer not to be seen on video, you can shut off your camera, although we like to feel your presence and see your face. So if possible, try to stay visible. You can also find info about our events on sandiegointegral.org or the meetup page. And we have a Facebook page also that we use as our website. Try to join one of these groups. To get on today, you probably already joined, because then you can get notices of future events and what's going on and when we do publish talks. If you have any questions about San Diego Integral or suggestions for future meetings, feel free to contact members of the leadership team. Our next meeting will be February 14th, and the topic's going to be the highly sensitive person and how they can contribute to creating WeSpace experiences. And the speaker is myself. I'll put in the link, the test, the questionnaire, in order to find out if you're HSP in a few minutes. So if possible, try to take it before the talk in May. It's all self-scoring and self-interpretative, so nobody has to know. Okay, and what else? If any of you feel so inclined, we would certainly take donations. We're trying to build enough of a fee base so that we can purchase the equipment we're going to need in the near future. We're envisioning going hybrid, meaning we're going to continue to do it online, but we also want to do it in person. We're realizing the technological challenge is going to be something. A few more housekeeping details. We can do question and answers through this meeting, and the speaker will give you an opening when to do it. So you can unmute your mic or ask the question in the chat if you feel more comfortable doing that. On a laptop, you can just raise your hand on the lower right, but if you're on a phone or tablet, you may need to touch the screen to activate the menu at the bottom under the More marker. I'm going to function as the chat host today, so I'll monitor any questions there. And right after the meeting, we have a more informal social hour, where we kind of open up the discussion on anything that might have interested you today and your personal impressions and feelings about it. So without further ado, thank you for getting up bright and early. Well, at least people on the West Coast. Thank you for joining us late in the evening, people in Europe. And I hand it over to Eloy to introduce our speaker today.
Okay, well, welcome to Ria. Ria has significant formal training, but her real gift is in the ability to tune into the subtle sense of what wants to emerge. She has a wonderful ability to integrate the many dimensions and perspectives that are available. The book she authored, Collective Presencing, is an amazing guide to this practice that we're going to be experiencing today. It's been crafted over many years with many people and lots of experimenting. Ria has created an ongoing worldwide community of collective presencing practice. This practice has helped me in many ways. It's helped me attune to the field outside of doing the practice. So I feel it when I'm in other places. And I feel like I've become a more present listener to others, to myself, and to the middle. And I'm so grateful for Ria and for this practice and the community of collective presencing. And with that, welcome Ria. Oh, Ria's in Belgium. So she's a gardener, an avid gardener, and brings her all that connection to the earth into the practice as well. So welcome, Ria.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to see some people that I've at least met online, somewhere in other groups or other spaces. And I also want to mention that there is also David Bierenbaum here and Anna from New Zealand, very early morning, who will help host the dialogue, because collective presencing is a practice, but it's a practice of dialogue. And the word dialogue is on purpose. It's not just a conversation, or it's not a discussion. The word dialogue, actually this dialogue means the meaning that flows through. So the dia is the flowing through. So that's why I kind of insist most of the time to name it a dialogue. And it is what Otto Scharmer would name it as a generative dialogue. So in essence, it's really, really simple. We do a circle conversation dialogue, where one of the main features is that we do not interrupt anybody else. So we work with a talking piece, and of course online that becomes our mute button, and we announce when we're going to pick it up, and we announce when we put it down. And so let's say the rule is that nobody interrupts anybody else. So as long as people hold talking piece, we just listen. So there's a deep listening practice also. And not just listening to what others are saying, as in, let's say, in normal discussion, sometimes we are listening to, oh, what are they saying, and what shall I reply, and how shall I counter the argument? And collective presencing is more like, can we witness everything people bring to the circle? Can we just be present with what is put in the middle? And so we talk about the middle or the center of the circle as where we talk to, and also where we talk from. Like, we are not, as we name it, we're not crossing the fire. I'm not saying, hey, David, I don't like what you said, or could be that I don't like it, or it could be that it triggers me, whatever he shared. I can then invite myself, like, how do I become present again? How do I become grounded and centered again? Or if too triggered, maybe I can speak to the middle, not to David, to the middle, like, whoa, there was something that triggered me. I have to sit with it. Or I need a minute of silence. And that's another feature, you could say, or important element of this dialogue practice, is that silence is really welcomed. And you could even pick up the piece, the talking piece, and say, I need some silence. And after half a minute, 1 minute, whatever, you can then maybe speak, or you could put a talking piece back without even saying something. So what we do is slow down the conversation. And as Tom was talking about high sensitivity, I go with everybody has subtle sensing. That kind of sensing that is not trained in our culture, that is not mentioned, that is hardly valued, but we all have it. We all notice more than what we normally talk about. We notice energies in the room. We notice maybe how somebody is present or not present, or so that kind of sensing is really, really invited in. And so far, at least most of us need some slowing down to actually become present to it, to really notice it, that there was something that we felt or that we heard with our inner ears, or there was a message or an image that came up, and to just give it attention. That's the basic reason, I would say, why we slow the conversation down. A collective presence dialogue always happens around a question. There's always an inquiry in the middle. It's not just any conversation, but we take great care to articulate a question that really has no answer, that really is an inquiry for us, that like, oh, if we just could understand this or that or the other. And to me, I think what the crafting of these questions do is that we actually try to point to a potential that we might not have seen or is not yet manifest. And somehow, sometimes we work with metaphor in the question, or somehow it kind of, one of our practitioners called it, it's like psychoactive, like, oh, the question opens up something, or it's beyond, let's say, our normal limits of our assumptions. So that's what we try always with these, with the articulation of the questions that we hold in these collective presencing dialogues. Let me see, what else should I talk about? So we're really inviting you to the practice, to the experience of the dialogue. There is a lot more that could be said about this practice, but for today, for actually trying it on, I think I said most of the important things. Maybe what I want to invite or point our attention to is also what we become more and more aware in this dialogue, in this practice, is how we move away from our Western trained mind that is focused on the things or on the persons or on the elements. And what we try to do is invite the attention or become aware of what's in between, what is happening between us, like what is in the field, whatever the field might be, for lack of better words and distinctions, I think. But what is happening? Can we train our sensing of what is going on? And sharings from people can be very, very different, but we just listen, we witness, and we try to hold that whole palette of elements almost like all at the same time. You don't have to do any logical conclusion. There's no conclusion out of a dialogue, but there is meaning somehow that you can draw from it. And it might mean, or most likely, the meaning you draw from the dialogue is probably different than the meaning somebody else takes from it. And still, that seems to be very worthwhile. So I think I'm going to leave it with that small introduction. As far as I understand, Eloy is going to do the technical trick here. And so some of you will find yourself with Eloy, and the other group will be with me. And David and Anna will also in one of these groups.
Yeah, we're going to go with 3 groups, Rhea.
Okay, even better, because yeah, we are 34. That's good. So we have 3 groups. That means that we have like 10, 11, 12 people in each group. Still very good. Yeah. We start with a check-in, but the host of each session will speak to that little check-in, then the dialogue. And so, Eloy, are we coming back at past? Is that what we do?
We can come back whenever however long a session you want to have. Like if we can do 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 15, whatever you think we need for.
So we are 20 minutes in.
We have plenty of time.
Yeah, so let's come back to the big group 20 past in an hour from now, then have the weaving of 15 minutes, and then have what we call like a debrief question answer kind of till the full hour. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, do you mind answering some questions while I set up the rooms? And once I get the room set up, there may be some shuffling with some facilitators. So you might have to wait a minute or two for a facilitator to show up. But it'll be myself, Rhea, David, and Anna. So
all right.
Go ahead with any. Tom, do you want to moderate some questions while I set up the room?
I got a quick question, but go ahead and put this stuff in the chat or just jump in. So, Rhea, when we're in the breakout rooms, are the facilitators going to have the focus for us? Or is there a question you can state up front that kind of summarizes what we're doing in there?
Okay.
I have it.
It's okay. Yeah. So Eloy and I prepared this, and I understood that this group is very familiar with the concept of evolutionary impulse. And so we came up with this question like, what does it mean to live the evolutionary impulse in the conversation. How can we do that? How can we embody evolutionary impulse right here, right now? What does that mean? And that's just an inquiry we are all, I guess we're all interested in. So that's the question we will all dialogue around.
And you'll be able to see the chat from your breakout rooms as well. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't see any others.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm just finding my way in and to language this. One of the things I've learned and included in my life in doing collective presencing, and especially with and through RIA, is inclusivity. Bringing each of you into my world, into my consciousness. So I want you to know that you're each important. And I want you to know that I feel your generosity when you pick up the talking piece and share whatever you're going to share. And I've learned that in this space, this collective space, energy comes through us when we allow it to come through us spontaneously. There's beauty and value and power in your generosity. Just wanted to share that and add that.
Okay. Are you ready, Eloy?
I'm ready. Here we go.
Okay. So the three groups are merging back together. We do some kind of checkout, and of course, we won't speak, all 30 of us. But it's nice to hear some voices from the different groups, and not to report back, but more like somehow bring whatever is still alive in you, or what was very meaningful, and just let's weave the three groups together. And we go till 40 past the hour, and then we will have 20 minutes of kind of, for the ones who want some kind of question and answers. So what is alive in you as we close this dialogue?
I'll pick up the piece. What's alive in me right now? And I love that question. First is this sense of returning home, returning to source, something that rarely reaches conscious level within me to the point where I can speak it out, but is always seeking in every experience, with every human, with everything, is a level of connection beyond the three-dimensional. And what's alive in me is this sense of relief that every time I'm in a conversation in normal life, there is this tension of will this experience be what my heart hopes? And then this mixture of hope and cynicism and frustration of the past and desire to get it right, and the reaching and the grasping, the retracting, and all of that is happening simultaneously. And yet I rarely allow it to reach a level of awareness that I can hold all of that simultaneously. So right now there's a part of me that feels like this big sponge, just holding all of that, but know that at a moment's notice I could squeeze it and it would just all, slip through my fingers again. But that collectively, all of it, the dark, the light, the grasping, the hoping, the wanting, the wishing, all collectively feels like love. And that love isn't present without all of that. It's not, for me, a setting aside of the dark elements inside of me. It's the allowing myself to not only hold all of it, but to send all those little tendrils out to the collective and hold it and feel it all for everyone. And collectively, that feels like returning home. So there is this immense awareness arising, along with just deep, deep gratitude for this community, this space, this connection, and hope for the world, I think. Peace, Baeck.
Yeah, I like Margaret's use of coming home, because I was trying to find a word to describe this, and that comes pretty damn close, It's something I experience sometimes at the end of a Zen retreat with my dad, but this has some of that same quality of, it's very different, but it has that same quality of, my home space would include this if it was fully realized, this kind of authentic living.
Just want to name some checkout how beautiful for me it is that we can be at ease, the 31 or the 32 of us, with silence. We don't need to fill the gaps. It's just, thank you.
I'll pick up. I'm at ease in the silence, and I have tension. I feel satisfied that the circle I was in moved toward coherence and didn't quite get there. There was some rock and rolling going on. And I use that term because the dance is the tension for me right now. To be specific, in collective presencing, like Ria articulated, it's an individual communication, not a debate. It's an anti-debate. Now, what happens when peace is there? Peace is actually there, and somebody wants to dance with somebody across the fire. How do we move collective presencing into the evolutionary process now? How do we come together with respect and dance and dissolve into the love? I don't have an answer for that, but I appreciate being here now with the 31 of you and the group that I was in. Peace down.
Picking up the piece. This is definitely one of those times when I don't know what I'm about to say. And I would like to experiment with that a bit. And I have loved the experience that I've had with all of you today. And I can feel it opening up space for me and my partner. This is the first time he's been in an experience like this. And I'm not sure if it's appropriate to say this, but there, you know, the sounds of silence, the Paul Simon song, we had such full silence in our group. And I want to point out that that song has been remade by a hard rock group called Disturbed. And they bring it out so powerfully, the beauty and the depth of silence. And so I just want to presence that here because it has moved me to my depths to listen to that, and I associate it with this kind of experience. And so thank you, Ria, and thank you all for hosting, and thank you all for being. And this was a beautiful experience for me. Thank you.
Just want to check if there are somewhere more words to check out, or is it all right to close? I'm just leaving a couple of seconds here.
I'll check out with the witnessing of our group going from trying to analyze the question to deepening into feelings and images and metaphors and archetypes, and it was beautiful to witness.
Okay, seems to check out or to check through, as David would name it many times, has been complete. As I understand, sessions here go till the full hour. And as we have the habit of doing in our collective presencing open sessions that happen through the STOA, we end a 1.5 hour session with what we call a debrief. A debrief is actually came into being for me and the co-hosts to actually learn about how you host these sessions and what to pay attention to and what to do and what not to do and all that. And over time, we invited just anyone who wanted to stay and who wanted to learn something or ask a question or give a comment on the practice itself. So that's what we have now, some 25, 20 minutes. If there's any questions, comments on the practice itself, there's not just me, but there's also other practitioners here. So maybe we can give you some answers or some comments. So, well, just use your mic, open your mute button, and just bring your question or your comment, whatever.
Yeah, I have a question. When you were summarizing collective, can't remember the name exactly. One of the key principles was to speak to the center, and I think I got that, and that you're not really meant to address any one individual. And then you also mentioned that it's important to speak from the center, I thought. And I think I have a much less clear view of what that means. Like, what does that feel like if you're speaking from the circle?
Yeah, it's a way of naming. It's a bit like what Summer was just saying. Like, sometimes some of us feel like, oh, I need to bring something. I need to speak something, although we haven't figured out in our head what we're going to say. So for me, I have a very clear bodily feeling, like when I'm just still and at peace inside. And sometimes I'm like, ah, this needs to come true. It might be a story, it might be an emotion. And of course, it's a very weird thing for Western minds to kind of speak from a place where our minds doesn't know what we're going to say. But I think Margaret said, like, from source or inspiration or intuition, or, as I said in the beginning, we miss a lot of language and distinctions about what we actually mean with all that. But as it is a practice, over time, you learn to distinguish, like, oh, this is my personality, this is my way of how I want to show, and sometimes it's totally different. Sometimes it's even, I'm very hesitant to say it, but it feels like I have to say it. So that's the best I can language it now, and I'm inviting others to compliment.
I'll pick up the piece. I've been with Ria and the whole group for almost a year and a half, 2 now. And it changed me around being in a group that is it's expanding, and it's about becoming aware of what is happening in the field. It is the field for me. It is the field of interconnectedness, interbeing with one another. And there's a quality of silence, and sometimes talking from the middle, it's like being spoken through. Can I allow myself to just be like almost like an empty vessel and be in service of the collective in a way, but also holding my sovereignty, being a sovereign being, because I've got it's my body, it's not my but I don't know, I am my body, but I'm also a part of the collective body. It's the both and it is moving together. And by allowing that to be in service of while I'm in practice, because it is a practice for me, and it's becoming more expansive and more wholer. And like you beautifully said, Margaret, it's a homecoming party. It's remembering of who I am in essence and who we are in essence together in a way. And yeah, peace back.
I got a question of, as David said, in our group, and I imagine the other ones, there was plenty of resonant energy. And I love that. I think that was quite an accomplishment. And it might have cohered here and there, but it dissipated also. So some of you have already commented on, each of us as we enter this container, what do we really need in order to create the coherence, where the vibrational energy intensifies, where we just want to stay silent to feel it and let it speak to us. So I'm curious, among the David, Rhea, and Anna, what do we have to bring individually in order to play in that coherent field?
I have an answer. Oh, Rhea, do you want to speak? It's really, I'm going to use the word simple, but I don't mean it with a small s. I mean it with a capital S. And it comes right from the book. Listen with attention and speak with intention. And around that whole world is caring. That's my answer, Tom.
I take it a different route because I want to point out a distinction that I have named, the distinction between harmony and coherence. I've seen people in these kind of groups who get attached to the harmony, like, oh, we are all in this together, and oh, this is nice, and all that. And I've been now in groups in this practice where the perspectives of the people are really, really different and really diverse. And still there is coherence. And I understood, as far as I understand, the coherence was about we are all human beings with such diversity, but we respect the diversity. And so, yeah, what do you mean with coherence? Is it harmony that you're seeking, or there's a distinction to be made, I think.
What came up in me in response to Tom Habib's question, so I kind of tried to feel it, not just think it, but what came up in me was what do we need to bring is our presence, which I think corresponds to David's attention, our really being willing to really be here with this. And number two, honesty. And that resonates with David's second word, intention, but that also resonates with what Rhea just said to me, at least it resonates in me, is if there's something discordant, then be honest that it's there and not just say, oh, let's all bliss out together. And in our group, this was David's group. Some of us, a few of us, did bring some discordant things in because it was genuine. This was what was genuinely present. And I remember feeling kind of an exuberant energy when this came up, because this is real. Yes, this is what we're here to, as human beings. And I think one of the members of our group summed it up toward the end by saying, it's hard, but it's beautiful. And yes, being human is hard, but it's beautiful. And we don't get to the beauty unless we're willing to go. through the hard things too. I'll put the stick down.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, that speaks to something I was going to mention too, is that there's room in this for all the darker stuff too, the you know, the grief or the sorrow or the despair and all that stuff. It's not just, we're not just here to, like somebody said, to bliss out. And that stuff is powerful in its own way. Sometimes it's a I don't know, maybe a reality check or a grounding that says, oh, there's this other stuff that's here too. Peace back.
Maria, I have I guess maybe a related but a somewhat different question for you, or for others who are much more expert at this stuff than I would ever be. Is there ever a place for directiveness in a circle like this? I'm thinking of one that I'm involved in, where one person has a tendency to speak a lot, but not, but kind of repeat themselves and so forth. And on one hand, maybe it's just my thinking that, well, this is not okay. On the other hand, it seems to be somewhat non-optimal for the group. And I wonder, is there a way of intervening in a situation like that is workable and useful, or is it just my ego feeling that it needs to do something?
Yeah, in the practice as such, of course, let's say you talk a lot and I get triggered because it's the umpteenth time that it happens, and I get like, I can see if I can come back to center and grounding in myself, but sometimes the trigger is so big, I can't do it on my own. What I can do in the practice is actually speak that I'm triggered, that I feel frustration because somebody took so much time from the whole group. I mean, you don't speak it to the person. You say, you did that, or you made me angry. But you can say like, oh my God, that was so hard for me to listen so many minutes. I got so frustrated, and just put it in the middle. That's a possibility. Now, I do want to mention that sometimes triggers keep on lingering, like especially like we are a group of 20, 25 core practitioners. We meet many times. Some of us know each other now for 2 years. We work in different constellations. What to do when things keep on lingering? And so we're looking, and actually somebody mentioned the Mankind Project. Some of us have been experimenting with a practice from the Mankind Project, like what is called a clearing. Like, let's say I have an issue with you. I always get frustrated when you speak. Like, I can do in different phases some kind of clearing, which has a very distinct steps. Like, this is the emotion and these are the facts, and you know the drill probably, which sometimes works. And we are looking into do we need, as a network and as a community, do we need such practices? Because in the practice of collective presencing, we don't do it. But what else do we need now and then, maybe? But that's still, let's say, in development. We're experimenting at the moment. We have to
kind of related to that. Can you speak to the concept of downloading and the difference between that and going to the middle?
Yeah, the downloading, as it is used by Otto Scharmer, the downloading is many times like, I always do that, or I always say that, or it's like a very unconscious habit, basically. And speaking to the middle or from the middle is, of course, something totally different. Like speaking something that you have never said before. It's really a very distinct experience, because in the Western world, we just repeat every time what we have already said so many times. And when you are in that experience, like, whoa, I've never said that. I didn't know I was going to say that. That's a really distinct experience. And we can all do it, but it's sometimes the beginning is scary to kind of jump off the cliff of what you already know and just let yourself float in that way. Yeah.
Any other questions?
And one of the things I would like to express as well is the incredible amount of shadow work that is being done. In a way, it's individual shadow work, but also collective shadow work. And like Ria said, there's an individual responsibility, or as a sovereign being, I feel you have a responsibility in regards to shadow work. And we can help each other with that, but it's also like, I'm not reaching, if I see someone's being hurt in the space or something's happening to that person, it's not my responsibility to save that person. We are all showing up as individual people, but creating a collective space together. And I can reach out afterwards and saying, hey, how are you? But in the space, there is that responsibility of holding yourself in a way and showing up as who you are. And one of the first things that came up when I was starting the practice with Ria is, what is it that I see in others that I actually have to work on myself? So the projection. So what am I projecting out here in this space? So what is it that I'm seeing in others that actually is me? So that's the part of the shadow work as well. It's like, what is it that's happening here? And maybe can I speak to the collective shadow that I'm seeing appearing here? Is it a Western mindset here, or is it something deeper that is actually happening here? What is happening? And can we speak to that collectively? And that's what I really, really, really love about the practice, and about the safety that we have and the trust to actually go really deep with each other. Peace back.
And actually, if I may, Anna, I was preparing a meeting with Anna and her friend Sue, who happened to live in the same village or same neighborhood. And we were preparing, and something was not sitting well with Anna, or I don't even remember the details, but they know each other so well. And they said like, something is happening here. Oh, how interesting. Let's see, what is it? And they just dived right in, and it has to do with this and it has to do with that. And like, they even forgot what we were about to prepare for. It was so nice to see two people who know each other well and who have that habit of, oh, when there's triggering, oh, there's something to learn, let's dive right in, instead of being afraid and being scared and or angry. Or so that was so beautiful to see these two people. Yeah, just, I don't know, with a friend. Yeah.
Well, I am feeling gratitude in your sharing that piece down.
Tom, would you like to close this out?
Absolutely. Not really. I'm enjoying this so much. I want to close it out. But anyways, we're coming to the end, and I want to thank everyone for joining us and showing up. God almighty, you people showed up today. And, you know, obviously Rhea opened the space and held the container for us so that we could do it. But I really appreciate what people did, even though I didn't get to see the other two breakout groups. So thank you, Rhea. Where can we get more information about your work, Rhea? I think Eloy could put it in the chat, or do you want to say something verbally on that?
It's in the chat, the collectivepresencing.org. And the book is beautiful. If you, it's an incredible book. You get more in depth in the practice through the book. It's amazing.
Yeah, you can download the book. The book, it's in the PDF, and you can even print it out locally. And there are weekly open sessions. I've seen some of you there that are held by our co-practitioners that goes through the STOA. That's thestoa.ca, mostly on Fridays for your time zone, I would say. You're always welcome. It's free, online, open. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so thank you, Rhea. Thank you, David Berenbaum, Anna Maslow, Vander Plank. Wow, that must be a lot for your child to learn how to spell. For all your input and contributing to today. So a quick reminder, we're meeting again in 5/14/22. And it's really fortuitous how this followed in sequence, because I'm going to be talking about WeSpace and actually answering the question I asked about what does it take, although Rhea's comment, you know, in terms of the acceptance at all different levels is really apropos. I also want to remind people the Integral European Conference is May 25th through the 29th, both online and in person. And Suzanne is going to be speaking there, I'm pretty sure. And I'm going to be speaking there. And is there anyone I left out that's here today to be speaking? No, okay. So again, we're taking donations. You can find it on the website. Please sign up so you get further notifications. And with that, we close the formal meeting. So this segment's a little bit more open in what we do. Feel free to chat and jump in, raise your hand, comment in this section. But I love it when we generate energy in the more open session. So this is a wide open issue, is to get it going. You know, I had mentioned already, I really felt like, you know, that accepting container that Rhea developed really was instrumental in creating the resonance because of the safety to show up, as Karen said, in transparency and vulnerability, really provides the energy so that we can play in this field. And I was aware of the people's different attunement to it, you know, as we did it. And I just loved the honesty of wherever we were. Did we enter with fear? Did we enter with frustration? could we enter with transparency in that moment? And I just loved how all of our desire to commune at this level kind of came to the surface. So as a starting point, that being a starting point, I invite other people to jump in and share their experience.
Tom, one thing that was curious to me is that I think, Ria, I heard you early on talking about speaking from the middle and waiting for that moment that was yours to speak. And I think you also said something about you could invite somebody to do that. And so I experienced Tom today inviting me to do that. And it was, what? Was my initial response. What are you saying? But it just triggered that space of, oh, okay. And I didn't know, but it was such a good experience of being invited into that unknown. And it really makes me aware of being aware of others, and when are they on the edge of their unknown right there and could be invited to take that step or take that leap in a way that would be beneficial for them, beneficial for the group, beneficial for trusting myself to even ask it. So thank you, Tom. That was great. Thank you, Ria.
I'd like to pick up the piece. And one of the things that comes up now is like the word fooling. And I think that Suzanne Kukreuter here as well. I'm very blessed to have you here in the midst of us. I love the word fooling because that's actually what also happens in the collective presencing space. Sometimes it is fun to be a fool in a way, to express yourself fully. And in a way that people don't get what actually is being shifted there as an energy. Sometimes there's a need of an energy in the space, and it's coming through to be shifted. And it can be done in a way like, oh, this is, and by actually articulating it in a way that, I don't know what I'm saying here, but I'm trying. Sometimes there is an energy in the room that wants to be shifted, or that something needs to happen to. And it can be done directly, like this needs to be shifted, but it can be done with the collective. We can explore the edges, and all of a sudden it's like a deepening of the space. It's becoming higher and lower, both at the same time. And that, I wonder what the word fool means here. So I don't know, I'm going to invite Suzanne maybe to speak to that if you want to, but I feel there's a significance here with merging collective presencing with being a fool in a way, or fooling. Please, Baeck.
My mind is on another track at the moment with indigenous ways of being. So going back to fooling, but fooling, we all fool ourselves. And much of these conversations can also be to discover in which way we are attached to certain ideas, or in which way we fool ourselves out of defensive motives. I mean, life is precarious. And it's not easy to be always honest and transparent and all of these things. I was thinking about the contract we have here. It's easier to be honest and raw and transparent when there is an underlying contract that this is a safe space. And most spaces aren't. My own defense, best defense is this. I think of my clown nose. It's always right there, handy, even if I don't touch it, as a way of saying, okay, lighten up. Don't take things so seriously. That's what I might say about fooling, the art of being aware of one's own clay feet. I haven't thought of fooling in a while.
I'd like to pick up the piece. I'd like to comment on two comments that Anna made. And one, she's saying that if somebody is harmed, to not say anything, that we're not responsible for another person's harm. And I guess I'm just feeling that as there might be a new space to be created. And then you were also commenting on if there's an energy that wants to be shifted to be able to speak that. And so I'm just wanting to kind of interconnect those two, where I'm feeling, two aspects that it seems like our consciousness prior was, if somebody's being harmed, they need to work on that. They need to stand up for themselves. And I'm just sensing that maybe it's a collective responsibility rather than an individual, only an individual responsibility. And, when somebody is being harmed in public, there are actions to be taken that other people do help. And just feeling that that could also be applied in an open conversation if we are aware of that. Yeah, peace out.
Thank you for your offering, Cass. That was very deep and profound. And yes, peace back.
I'll pick up the piece. And what I'm experiencing right now is this emerging sense of curiosity within myself. What I noticed as we closed out the breakout rooms and we came into the group, I could feel the ebbing and the flowing of the collective presence. As I've just sort of sat quietly in my experience for most of the last 45 minutes maybe, is I could sense when people's attention were diverted and when it came back, and this expansion. So it's really a very curious thing to realize that I can do what I can do, which is to open my awareness, and yet I am I am also part of a we collective that requires everyone else to have a level of understanding and a level of opening themselves in order to create this experience. So, which led to the curiosity of, how do I take this into my life? How do I create with people, because it feels natural and it feels right and it feels organic to me to go through my life this way. And it feels like this is something that I have been trying to do in my own limited way without understanding. So My curiosity is really around how I take this and embody this in a way that creates not only what I want, but provides value to the world. Because there are containers and groups and people from the individual to the collective that, using one end of an extreme, maybe with my child, I can naturally, organically, effortlessly, without even conscious awareness, be in that energy with one of my children or all of my children. And yet, on the other extreme, I can go into a work situation that has zero, feels like it has zero. So I'm just personally sitting in the curiosity of uh, what do I do with this? Where do I go with this? And I have no answers, but just felt called to just share that that's where I'm at.
Since we're just having a chat, Margaret, I have a sense of you that resonates and feels like me, the loving, affectionate soul. I also have and have had for going on 2 years that question: how do I bring collective presencing into the world, into my life, to the grocery store? So reporting in today, it seems to me that regardless of the context, at work, as you put it, or the grocery store, as I put it, it comes down to people being people. Little tricky because some places are not so safe, but it comes down to people being people. And the challenge for me is not to embrace them, to allow myself to be embraced by them, to lean into those people holding me beyond what it looks like. So I don't have an answer to your wondering, your intrigue. That's just me reporting in today, Margaret.
So the beauty of a group doing this, I find, is we can lay back and take the temperature and the safety readings, feel the rhythm, the energy level, and how to respond as we approach coherence. The problem with group is it can get chaotic and all over the place, but with capable members like today, we did approach coherence. What's alive for me right now, after reading Murray's paper in Cohering the Collective or Cohering the We Space, I forget the name of the book, Gunless's book. When it's one-on-one, that's very intimate. And O'Fallon's word came to mind. Murray actually used this. It's a moment of interpenetration that even the shared silence has that quality. And it can be a little bit too personal. Even in my work with married couples, when I open that space, and usually I got one that can hold it, the other one just gets jittery as all get out. It's very intimate to even open it for a moment for a couple. And some people even dissolve into tears from the years of hunger that they needed this connection and realized they were living without it. So when we're on that edge, it's dicey business. Next month when I present, I'm going to call that the event horizon. I'm borrowing that from physics and dark holes, black holes. The event horizon is what's going on in that moment. And, you know, how do we bring people with varying capacities to go transparent and to feel comfortable with that? How do we bring them along? Because this is our time. This is our evolutionary imperative. We're all agents trying to bring, Barbara Max Hubbard called it Homo sapiens sapien, the next evolutionary capacity of the Homo sapiens. I hope she's right. I mean, the world needs it.
Did you see Suzanne Cook-Reuter's question in the chat?
Did you speak to me alone?
Yes. Did you see her question in the chat?
Question or the remark?
No. Well, I guess it's a remark. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's nice.
You're welcome, Suzanne, if you're still here.
She left.
She left. Yeah.
You know, I wanted to remark on something that I'm just surprised the healing that can come from these spaces. I've been working with discontinuity between my physical self and I don't know what to call the other part. I'm just going to call it a causal self. And during the breakout group, I was able to dialogue with both aspects of self and get a sense of the discontinuity from their own perspectives and feel some lessening of that discontinuity. And so just blown away, you know, Tom and the group, thank you so much for this space, and Rhea and David, and it just, wow. What do you say about experiences like that? Thank you.
Derek, we have a concept called collective attention. You don't have to pick up the talking piece to have our attention. Our attention. And there is this subtle power. So thanks for sharing that back to me, to us. I appreciate that.
One of the things that I'm really grateful for is the people describing their internal visualizations of the conversation as it happens, because I kind of experienced things visually, and it was really interesting. And just, you know, visualizing what they're talking about just gave me all kinds of new ways to think about things. And I wanted to share one that I experienced, and it might be a testament to how in my head I get and out of my body, but I am immediately thrown into like this meta level of gratitude that I have the opportunity to think of these things and do this kind of work, because it really takes a relatively privileged position in our society to be doing this kind of thing, and wondering what a society would look like that maximizes this kind of experience. Like what say that this is the goal, or this is one of the most important things that one can do with one's life, I think. And maybe it follows then that we should work towards a society where everyone is doing this as much as possible. And what does that look like? And so that's kind of, my head gets thrown into this meta level of that kind of thing and the visualizations of all that. And I think I just kind of had that realization during this. So now I'm a little bit more focused on, okay, this is what I kind of want to do. It's like, okay, this is one of the things that people should do, you know. Yeah, thank you.
Part of the practice is also what we call right timing. Like, I've seen so many people, I don't know if people are familiar with theory U and the U process. And so people go down into sensing and what is that they're called to do and what the projects they want to bring into the world. And so they go deep, 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 and then they see the light, let's say, or you see what you need to do or what your soul's calling is. And then so many people switch to project management, like, oh, now I know what to do. Now let's do this and do that, and goals and plans. And I think what we're learning, or what we are invited to amplify in ourselves, is to stay in that sensing all the time. Sensing, like, is this still the right thing? Where are we now? How do I feel? How do you feel? Kind of stay in that with the sensing capacities, with the planning and with things to do out in the outside world, and taking steps. But the Western mind is so trained to kind of, oh, now I know this is how we this is how we do it. And yeah, imagine that projects, organizations are run with this capacity. Like, we stay in the sensing, we use also intuition with all the knowledge, with all the things we need to know, but add it in with the sensing and the intuition. That's what I envision, or what I see possible. I don't know in what time frame. And you know, as practitioners, we haven't been thinking, or how are we going to spread the word, or how are we reaching more people? We haven't. We just had an invitation from the STOA, and we do the sessions, and now invitations come from here, and from the Emergent Leaders Project, and from other, we did 3 sessions with the network from Jeremy Johnson, and suddenly it started to spread. I mean, we didn't plan to spread, but so how does that work in us? Yeah, it's it's fascinating. It's the least I can say. Yeah.
I'm part of a group that's trying to create an organism, a living system through presencing, and it's messy, and but it's also yielding revelations and things that we never could have strategized. So, and it's sitting through you, not calling it you, but sitting through that process and presencing, and trying to work out conflicts as we meet them in a way that is loving and caring and serves the whole. So keep doing the work. And my impulse right now is to say that the only way we're going to get there, wherever there is is to keep practicing together. Thank you for that affirmation.
I want to share that there was a couple of collective presencing groups that were different. Like for a while we did a collective presencing for projects. So that was the idea of let's figure out how to take these principles or this practice and bring it into the outer world. And that was pretty powerful. And then the other one that was amazing to me was in a collective presencing men's group. And that was like the most amazing men's group I've ever been in. It was so, well, it wasn't just fun, but it was so deep and so rich and so, the men were so willing to go full vulnerable, and not just that, but it was creative as hell too. It was just so amazing.
Eloy, with that, I'll just say briefly that, again, one of the things Ria said at the beginning was, or somebody did, that everything is there. It's just that we don't often speak it. And what you're referencing there is an amazing capacity that I sense in men, that they are seeing and sensing deeply, and yet haven't culturally had the space to speak what that is. And I can just imagine a men's group where that is what is described as what we're doing, is amazing. So yeah, thank you.
Oops, I wanted to say goodbye to Ria, but we just lost her. So for the recording, thank you, Ria.
Well, I'll accept your goodbye, Eloy. And I wouldn't say I'm fading, but I'm ready for a biological break and maybe a lunch and a few things. I just want to thank you, Eloy, and Tom. What comes up for me is to be more specific, and what I'm thanking you for is this opportunity to touch other people and be touched by other people. And so I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, David. I was kind of curious go ahead.
If you got another direction, go ahead, Eloy.
Oh, I was just going to ask if anybody experienced something novel or unique with today's session. You can talk about it or not, but you could just raise your hand if you did too, because I know I did. But
so Eloy, I would invite you to speak what your novel experience was into the space.
For me, it was a bodily sensation of feeling like an uncontrolled vibration. Like I wasn't nervous, but I was physically like having chills or something, but I didn't have chills. Just and it was through the whole breakout. Like it just that was new. That was totally different. I don't know what to attribute that to, but it had a lot of energy for me. A lot of like I had to lean into it, because my first sensation was to like, oh, this isn't right. But then it got to be right. So Anyone else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just experienced something, an equal opening and awareness and acceptance. And I just felt like I could listen more openly to a whole lot of different people. And I felt like I had an opportunity to express myself openly with acceptance and listening and attention. That was very different from any other Zoom meeting that I've been on. And something ineffable that I can't quite express, but it was a different vibration, something. Just it was a different feeling, and it was a feeling of freedom and openness and acceptance, and actually lack of anxiety that I felt as it progressed, and I guess that's about the best I can explain it right now.
Oh, can you tell us your name too, by the way?
I'm Jerry Peters.
Okay, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry.
Life partner here.
Yeah.
So I've got a pretty good one. That
you sure do.
She keeps me open in our relationship, but I kind of felt that with everybody here, which is phenomenal. So.
Yeah, I had several unique experiences, like visual ones. Margaret was talking about how her experience in the conversation had like different threads that were being pulled by concepts, and I found that very it's a very compelling visualization. And it's kind of I'm going to try and use that technique in conversation myself, because sometimes I'll be in a conversation and I'll feel uneasy or anxious. I'm like, what caused that? And I think maybe that might be a good way to visually analyze stuff. I don't know. And then Carrie spoke about seeing the conversation as a whirlpool and being drawn into it and seeing it from different perspectives. And I thought that was fascinating. And so, yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, this whole realm of the imaginal is pretty. That's something that's come to me through this practice that I would have just said I'm not that imaginative before, but these images just are waiting for me, are waiting for us.
Yeah, I'd have to second that, Eloy, in the sense that I was trained to function from here up. If I wasn't functioning from there up, it wasn't counted in my family. A whole bunch of academics, right? So this has been a really powerful opportunity for me to kind of include my head, because it's obviously part of my body, but to gently switch that off so that I can, well, what I experienced today was a much more relaxing experience. I was more comfortable with just speaking about the images that came to me, rather than thinking, oh, well, I should be saying this in words, but just using the images instead. So that was lovely for me. Thank you.
I'll pick up the piece. I'm going to pick up the piece anytime. It's that ingrained. Pick up the piece and put down a piece. I love it. Yeah, I'm just so grateful to be part of so many communities, and that there's so many space holders that are actually allowing us to come home in a way. Like this collective, like there's so many collectives, but I'm so grateful that we're almost like Ria said, weaving. We're starting to, it feels like the collectives are weaving together, and there's that wider expansion on the edges. And Homo sapiens sapiens, I wonder about how that interrelates to the collectives weaving together at the moment. I'm very curious about that. And about today, I felt a huge heart coherence, a collective heart coherence in our practice. And that felt so, I bow to that. It's like I can say it's God, it's source, or the divine, or however you want to name it. But I felt the field was present through us or with us or co-created through us, and it became a field of creation. And the field of creation was actually, the manifestation itself happened just in front of us and through us. It was very, very, very powerful. Thank you all. Peace back.
Yeah, Anna, thank you for having such good words to express all that. And I have noticed how many different groups I can tap into who are developing their we space, and that there's a growing capacity to drop in on many, many places and just, there we are. And it's like, there we are, the big collective, there we are, kind of seeping into one group and into another. And like you say, all of it weaving together and, ideally taking over the collective consciousness. And I'm also feeling that the collective consciousness does include shadow, and so grateful for so many who are doing their own personal shadow work and collective shadow work and trauma work and all that. And it does bring up question for me how to most beneficially handle situations if there is somebody who is triggered, perhaps not as aware that they are triggered, bringing that energy into the group, how to respond to that respectfully and successfully in a collective setting. And I'm not expecting a whole answer to that right now, but I am putting it out as a question that my heart really feels the desire to feel into that a little more.
What comes through for me is that the phrase that it's not therapy. I think we can address shadow issues, but it doesn't feel like the intention is to fix others, or maybe through the process we heal ourselves, or we can heal each other. But I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, Anna?
Yes, always. There's for me, it's a healing space as well. It feels so healing because I'm being held by the collective and by the field. So if I'm allowing to be healed, then there's something else that comes online. It's like a clearing, and then there's that empty vessel, and then be in service of. I don't know if that works for others, but that's how it works for me at the moment, and probably that will shift many times. But for now, that's how it works. And I wonder about how can we hold space for one another, because I don't see the purpose in telling others when we're doing the practice. I always see like there's an awareness where when you say, who is looking through my eyes? Can I see second person perspective and shift that back into first person perspective and see the other, where the other comes from? Like actually adding more perspectives to my being so I can hold more space in a way. And that's where I create more space, not only for myself, but also for the other. And the other comes online. It's not happening always, but I see it happen many times, and it happened to me when space was being held. It's like, wow, I haven't seen this. And then people say afterwards, oh, I saw you doing this and this and this. And then we do the shadow work afterwards. And then things come online, and it's just a huge space of love. It's just love. I don't know. It's not just, but it is love. Peace, Baeck.
It strikes me that what we're discussing here or experiencing again here to some degree is what the question was, how can we embody the evolutionary impulse in our conversation? And I feel like we're doing exactly that right now as we speak and as we have been together.
I had an experience of the healing space about 4 or 5 months ago, one of these SDI breakouts. And, I was in my moderator mode, and we're in a breakout with a woman. I was really debating if it was inappropriate for her to be in the group because she was so anxious, and, it was all coming out in verbiage, and it was disruptive. But one of the other gentlemen in the group, oh God, I forget his name, from Europe, I remember it. He was much more patient than I was in that moment. And he just started talking and creating a container. And you could see her recognize that this was a safe space. And she started to settle down and even began to express gratitude. And I was kind of humbled because I was thinking of throwing her out. And I went, oh, shit. Because that was quite a transformation right before our eyes. So I mentioned it to him later. I said, thanks for taking over, because I had nothing in that moment to offer. So it's humbling as we watch this. And that's a little bit of the special I got today is I tend to be much more wordy and descriptive of what it takes to be in we space. But what I got from Rear is the container solves a lot of problems. Although I still think we need to name it and describe it.
So I have a lot of excitement from having read the book and applied the lessons to the book. And I know there's a few of you here that have read at least some of the book. I guess I'm looking for validation on sharing the enthusiasm for the what's in the book and what it brings to the practice. So I can name names. I don't know who else has read it besides Anna, Summer, and Carrie.
Are you talking about the cohering the integral we space? Or?
No, the collective presencing book.
Ah, collective presencing. Oh.
Yeah, no, I like the other one. I like the cohering the integral we space as well. But I've gotten more depth from the collective presencing book for, it's like something I could look at every day. Okay, next topic.
I haven't read enough to know.
Well, as Eloy said, we've been doing a collective presencing book club that Eloy has been facilitating, and read a chapter at a time pick out a passage that really calls to us and share it in the group. And every passage, every sentence could be a whole topic. And it's almost one of those books that you can open to any page and get a lot out of it. And so it's been benefiting me to start from the beginning and read it, and it just builds and builds and builds on what Ria is bringing to these meetings and these spaces. So it's been very valuable to me to read it.
And you can get the book for free or for a donation. So let me encourage that. To make it easier to read for me, I downloaded the PDF and opened it up with my Kindle app. And then it reads like a Kindle book, and I can put notes and all that stuff. So highly encourage that.
Are we entering a good place to stop? Or people want to continue?
Feels like we're at a good stopping place to me.
Guess I could mention briefly a bit of my experience. It feels very natural to me, this kind of communication, or at least from the part of me tapping in and listening. Speaking is a bit harder, and that, like, I don't know what to say kind of speaking is harder indeed. But I feel some calmness on my mind, but still like uneasiness in my body from having a cold. So it feels a little bit strange to have those sensations, and like I want to move or do something, but I want to dive in and listen and feel into it. So that's what kept me still here. I want to just go out and move around and I don't know what, move my body, feel it in a different way too.
That seems like a good metaphor for the practice. Like you feel movement in your being, not necessarily the physical movement, but like the shift, right? Like something changed, right?
Yeah.
Good to see you again, Olaf.
Yeah, good to see you, Tom and Eloy.
Yeah.
Guess we'll meet again at the conference, right?
Yep, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So why don't we close down, and we'll see everybody next month, hopefully, and we can share more space together.
Yeah, thank you all for coming and hanging out for quite a while. Good to see you, Mary, Summer, Josh, Olive, Anna. Thanks again, Anna, for jumping in so early. Was it a little bit early for you too, Carrie?
It was 7. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Bye, all.
Bye now.
Aloha.
For further information, including upcoming events, resources, links to our Facebook and Meetup pages, and our fabulous donate button, please visit our website at sandiegointegral.org. Donations are greatly appreciated and help us to continue to provide information and connection within the Integral community.